The man at my gate spoke like he owned the place. "Mr. Walker, if you refuse to pay the dues, the association will have no choice but to evict you." Evict me? From my own land. Land I bought with my own money, sweat, and blistered hands. I set my warm coffee on the hood of my dusty old Ford and laughed. Not a friendly laugh. The kind that makes a stranger step back, like he suddenly remembered he left the stove on. "You're trespassing," I said. "And unless that clipboard turns into a badge and a warrant, you're leaving." He adjusted his cheap tie, looking over his shoulder at a white SUV idling on the road. Through the tinted window, I saw her, sitting perfectly still, sunglasses shining like a snake's eyes catching the sun, Ellen Vance, president of the Coyote Ridge HOA. She raised her phone, snapped a picture of me, and drove off slowly like she'd just marked territory. Right there, in that dry Texas heat with cedar dust in the air, I felt something shift. This wasn't about dues. This was a declaration of war. 3 months earlier, none of this existed. I'd stood inside a quiet county courthouse where the air smelled like old paper and lemon cleaner. The auctioneer wiped sweat from his forehead and called out, "Parcel 17B, 160 acres, rural reclamation eligible. Any bids?" No one raised a hand. Not one. Except me. The gavel cracked. Sold. And just like that, I owned a forgotten farm no one else wanted. I didn't buy it to run away from life. I bought it to breathe again. After 20 years arguing about property lines in courtrooms as a forensic survey expert, I wanted silence. Real silence. The kind where you hear wind move through trees instead of attorneys snapping at each other. The first week on the land felt like medicine. The sun came up soft and gold every morning. Coyotes yipped at night. My Airstream sat beside a leaning barn that smelled like old hay and rust. I repaired the roof with sheets of aluminum, wired in a solar array, and lived off black coffee and fried eggs. Not once did I hear a neighbor complain about a paint color or a mailbox height. The folks driving out of Coyote Ridge would sometimes slow their beige SUVs, staring at me like I was a wild animal trespassing in their kingdom. Their windows stayed up. Their expressions stayed tight. I knew their type. I just didn't care. My deed said it clear as daylight. County land. No HOA jurisdiction. It felt like scripture. A few days later, Sheriff Tom Henderson pulled up in his old brown Tahoe. A big man with a slow voice and a handshake that felt like a tree trunk. "Heard you bought the Miller place," he said. "Good to see someone fixing it up." "It's outside Coyote Ridge, right?" I asked. He paused just long enough for me to notice. "On paper, yeah. But those folks, they like to think the county ends at their street signs. Don't let them push you around." I laughed. I shouldn't have. 1 week later, I was working the east fence line under a hot afternoon sun. Shirt stuck to my back, the smell of cut mesquite sharp in the air. That's when her SUV appeared, gleaming like it had never seen a dirt road in its life. The door opened and she stepped out. Sharp suit, pearl necklace, clipboard hugged to her chest like it was a badge of honor. "Excuse me?" she said, voice crisp like cold metal. "Are you the owner here?" "That's right, Jake Walker. I'm Ellen Vance, president of the Coyote Ridge Homeowners Association." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "We've noticed increased activity on this property, heavy equipment, unapproved structures, noise complaints." I wiped sweat off my neck with the back of my hand. "Ma'am, this land isn't part of your community." "Oh, I'm sure that's what your realtor told you," she said sweetly, "but the borders were redrawn last quarter. You'll be receiving information soon." She turned on her heel, leaving a cloud of white dust swirling around my boots. That night, sitting beside my campfire with the smell of smoke drifting upward, I reread my deed under lantern light. Every line said the same thing. County land, not HOA. Not close. Not even accidentally overlapping. Still, the way she said "you'll be receiving information soon" hit me in the gut. I'd heard that tone before. Bureaucrats who smile while they load the gun. The next few mornings were strangely quiet. No SUVs. No strangers, just the hum of my generator and the smell of fresh cedar from the posts I was replacing. By day 4, I almost convinced myself she had given up. Then came the knock. Not a friendly neighbor tap. a loud, official-sounding thud that echoed off the barn siding. I stepped outside, rag in my hand, and saw two men at the gate wearing reflective vests labeled Coyote Ridge Community Affairs. One young and smooth-faced with a fake grin. The other older, soft around the middle, carrying authority like it came free with his vest. "Morning," the young one said. "We're here to deliver your association welcome packet." I stared coldly. What association would that be? The Coyote Ridge Homeowners Association. Under the revised boundary expansion charter, your property now falls within our jurisdiction. Congratulations. He said congratulations like he was giving me a prize. I didn't take the envelope he offered. "You see that fence?" I asked, pointing at my barbed wire line. "Cross it again and you're trespassing." "Sir," he began, "refusal to cooperate may result in fines." "Save it," I cut in. "You can shove that paperwork right back into the SUV you came from." They exchanged looks that said I wasn't following their script. They finally left, tires kicking up red dust. I stood there long after they disappeared, breathing the hot Texas air, listening to the wind brush through the sage. A line had been drawn. Not on a map. In the dirt. Between me and them. And, whether Ellen liked it or not, I wasn't moving an inch. The morning after those two HOA men left, the sky felt too calm. The kind of calm that makes your skin itch because you know something is coming. I spent the early hours fixing the north fence, trying to pretend their visit was nothing more than an annoyance. But trouble doesn't disappear when you ignore it. It grows teeth. Near noon, I spotted something strange, half buried in the dirt near the west post. A small gray rock that didn't belong there. When I picked it up, it was too light, too smooth, and cracked across the top. Inside the crack, a tiny lens stared back at me. A camera. A hidden camera on my land. My stomach tightened. I began scanning the fence line and found another one half hidden under weeds. Someone had planted them days ago. These weren't cheap toys. These were the kind of surveillance tools an HOA with too much money and too little conscience would use. That night, under my barn's yellow lantern light, I unscrewed the guts out of every fake rock one by one. The pieces clinked on the workbench, metal meeting wood in sharp little taps. Whoever planted them hadn't been spying. They'd been mapping. "This isn't a boundary dispute," I whispered. "It's an invasion." The wind pushed against the barn door, making it groan like an old warning. By the time I crawled into the airstream and let the heater hum, my decision was already made. The next morning, heavy rain hammered the roof like angry fists. I stepped outside with my coffee, barefoot in the mud, and saw a paper plastered to my gate. Soaked, curling, held up by blue tape. HOA violations, unauthorized grading, unapproved fencing, excessive noise, non-compliant land use, and the kicker: failure to submit landscaping plans for review. "For a farm," I muttered. I tossed it into a puddle, watching the ink bleed like it was ashamed of itself. But the HOA wasn't done. By midday, the rain thinned. I loaded gravel into the truck, humming with the radio, when two vehicles rolled up to the gate, a white SUV and a silver hybrid with Coyote Ridge plates. My humming stopped. Two people stepped out, wearing bright neon vests that read Community Affairs Division. The man had a thick folder tucked under his arm. The woman beside him had a permanent smile that made her look like she sold scented candles door to door. "Good morning," she chirped. "We're with the Coyote Ridge HOA Oversight Committee." "You're on the wrong side of the fence," I said. The man opened the folder. "As of January 1st, under Section 7, Clause 3A, this property falls within our maintenance district." "You mean your little HOA kingdom?" I asked. He didn't blink. "Your first membership fee is $6,300, quote, and due by the end of the month," the woman added. I stared at them until her smile trembled. "You folks might want to double-check the county map. You're trespassing." "This isn't trespassing, sir," she said softly. "It's an official notice." I pointed at the mud under their clean shoes. That is my dirt you're standing on. Leave." Their confidence cracked. The man shut his folder, the woman lowered her tablet, and they backed up like I'd turned into a rattlesnake. Good. When they were gone, I called Sheriff Henderson. He answered on the second ring, sounding tired, like the world had worn him down overnight. "Tom, it's Jake." HOA folks came again, claiming they own my land. He sighed long and low. "Yeah, I've heard they've been stretching their reach. Probably a map mix-up." "Tell them to unmix it," I said. "I'll make calls," he promised. "But Jake, don't poke the bear. They've got lawyers." "I've got one too," I said. "She bites harder." By evening, the clouds cleared, leaving the air smelling like wet cedar and diesel. For a moment, I let myself believe the worst had passed. Then I saw the drone. A small silver speck hovering over the eastern fence line, steady and deliberate. Its camera blinked red like an eye, recording everything I'd built. My coffee went cold in my hand. "You've got some nerve, Ellen," I muttered. The drone glided along my boundary, then turned back toward the row of neat, identical houses beyond the ridge. I watched until it disappeared behind their roofs. Enough was enough. I checked my trail cameras, 4 of them hidden around the property. When I loaded the footage onto my laptop, the truth slapped me in the face. The drone had been flying over my land for 3 days straight. Worse. One clip showed 2 people standing behind my east fence wearing HOA vests. One pointed onto my property, the other held a measuring stick. They weren't wandering. They were surveying. That was the moment I leaned back in my chair, breath slow, pulse steady, and whispered, "All right, you want a fight? You've got one." That night, I cleaned my .30-30 Winchester until it gleamed, then set it by the door. I didn't plan to use it, but I wanted them to understand I wasn't some pushover waiting to be bulldozed. The sun dipped behind the hills, the wind rattled loose tin on the barn roof, and somewhere in the distance the coyotes began to howl. War was coming. The kind with paper, lawyers, and trespassers who didn't understand boundaries until they were forced to. And I was done waiting. The night everything changed was pitch black, the kind of black where even the stars feel scared to show up. I was half asleep inside my Airstream when my phone buzzed with a motion alert from the South Trail Cam. I wiped my eyes, opened the feed, and felt my heartbeat slam into my throat. 2 trucks creeping through my locked gate, headlights off, engines rumbling low. I slid into my boots, grabbed my Winchester, and stepped outside into the cold Texas dark. My solar lights cast a faint glow across the field, enough to see silhouettes moving near the generator. One carried a crowbar, another used a red lens flashlight, sweeping it like he was searching for buried treasure. A voice cut through the night. "Cut the line! Take down the gate!" A woman's voice. My jaw clenched. No way, not her. But when the older man stepped aside, I saw her blonde hair pulled back tight, her coat whipping in the wind. Ellen Vance. The queen of Coyote Ridge herself. Metal clanged. Sparks shot as they cut through the chain. My generator sputtered, choking like it was gasping for help. The lights flickered. Went dark. That was enough. I stepped out of the shadows, keeping the rifle angled low. "You folks lost?" Every head snapped toward me. One man raised his flashlight, and the beam hit my face. They froze when they saw the Winchester glint next to my leg. I didn't raise it. Didn't need to. My voice carried all the warning they needed. "You're on my land. Put the gate back where you found it." The younger man swallowed hard. Tyler, Ellen's son. His hand shook so bad he dropped the wire cutters. "Mom, we should go," he whispered. Ellen's face twisted, desperate and angry, but even she knew they'd crossed a line they couldn't talk away. They backed up slow, climbed into their trucks, and peeled off so fast, gravel sprayed like bullets. I stood in the silence they left behind, breathing the smell of torn dirt and diesel. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from the fire in my chest. I reconnected the generator, lights humming back to life one by one. I didn't wait until morning. I drove straight to the sheriff's office. Sheriff Henderson watched the night vision video on my phone, jaw tightening with each second. "Jake, this is bad." "Yeah," I said. "Arrest them now, bad." He rubbed his forehead. "We'll investigate. File a report. Don't take this into your own hands." "Then do your job," I said, and walked out. By the next sunrise, I'd already called my secret weapon, Claire Benton. The only lawyer I trusted. Smart, fast, and allergic to bullies. When I told her everything, she didn't even clear her throat. "I'll draft a cease and desist by noon. And Jake, don't talk to them without me." Quote. By afternoon, I carried a thick legal envelope straight into the Coyote Ridge office. Ellen met me in the lobby, heels clicking like tiny gunshots on the tile. "Mr. Walker," she said, "we don't appreciate intimidation." "Then you're going to hate this," I said, sliding the envelope across the counter. She froze when she saw the bold red stamp. Legal notice, property encroachment. "This ends now," I said. For 2 days there was silence. No drones. No HOA reps. No letters taped to my gate. But then the engines came. 4 landscaping trucks pulling up near the road. Men unloaded shovels and PVC piping like they were preparing for battle. "Morning," I said, stepping up. "Who hired you?" A kid holding blueprints looked nervous. "The HOA. We're installing drainage and park signs right through that field." "My field," I corrected. The foreman, a sunburned man with zero patience, pushed forward. "We've got the permit." I took it from his hand, scanned it once, and smiled. Forged. Stamped by someone who'd never signed a legal document in their life. I pulled out my actual deed and county plat map. "You break ground here? I'll bury you in paperwork." They left so fast, dust followed them down the road. That's when Claire called. "Jake, good news. I found forged zoning overlays. They digitally redrew the HOA border over your land." My chest went cold. "They what?" "They forged the map. We're filing a complaint tomorrow." But fate stepped it up. Within a week, Claire uncovered emails between Ellen and her cousin, a county clerk. They spelled out the plan line by line. Shift the boundary, claim my land, hit me with dues, force me to sell. It wasn't a mistake. It was a takeover. Then came the trench, a deep, muddy 6-foot cut running across my south field, dug overnight. But it wasn't a mistake either. It was caught on both of my hidden trail cams. 2 HOA workers, spray paint, measuring tape, a pickup with the HOA crest. They dug 17 feet into my land. I drove straight to the county office, trail cam footage ready. This time, officials didn't stall. They stared with pale faces at the video, my survey maps, the forged zoning file, and every scrap of proof. The next morning, Claire and I walked into the courthouse, the air thick with the smell of lemon polish and tension. Judge Cordova listened to every detail. Fake maps, cooked books, nighttime trespassing, forced dues. Claire stood tall, calm, and lethal. "Your Honor," she said, "this isn't a misunderstanding, it's organized fraud." The judge's eyebrows lowered slow and deadly. 2 days later, everything collapsed. The county froze all HOA operations. Agents raided their office. Ellen's cousin was suspended for falsifying records. Ellen herself was escorted out in handcuffs. Her board abandoned her like rats off a sinking ship. Reporters swarmed. Neighbors who'd been bullied for years came forward. Coyote Ridge wasn't a community anymore. It was a crime scene. Weeks later, the county dissolved the HOA entirely. Tyler took a plea deal. Ellen admitted wrongdoing to avoid prison. Peace came back like a slow sunrise. And one morning, as I walked my fence line, I saw her, Ellen, standing by the county road. Gray coat, sunglasses hiding tired eyes. 2 lawyers beside her. She paused as I stepped from my truck. "Mr. Walker." "Mrs. Vance." "You won," she said softly. "No," I said. "The truth won." She nodded once, turned, and walked away, her footsteps fading in the dirt she once claimed to control. Back home, the fields glowed in the warm Texas light. Bees drifted over the clover,